I'm genuinely surprised that it's already been a week since the delegation, and I consider it a life-changing week for myself, and from what I heard, many of the other delegates as well. I believe a central contradiction that is playing out in Venezuela is the Venezuelan people's desire for peace, sovereignty, and the right to self-determination in opposition to U.S. imperialism, who wants to super exploitate Venezuelan land, labor, and resources, in particular oil and rare minerals. We see Trump say this time and time again, that he believes, that the U.S. ruling class believes, that Venezuelan oil belongs to the U.S., not the Venezuelan people. And we know that's bullshit. I saw this contradiction play out in so many different ways throughout the entire trip. I want to speak in particular about the panel on the second day of the conference, Bolivarianism versus the Monroeism. Many of the speakers, which included professors from Cuba, Colombia, and the vice president of Venezuela, talked about how Bolivarianism represents peace, unity of the Latin American countries to oppose U.S. imperialism, which the Monroe Doctrine represents. The Monroe Doctrine represents the U.S.'s desire to plunder and exploit Latin America for their own profit-driven interests and to increase the wealth of the already incredibly wealthy U.S. imperialist ruling class. I saw it take place in the communes, which the Venezuelan people view as central and pivotal to the resistance to U.S. imperialism and to building socialism within Venezuela. A chant that they repeated over and over again was "Comuna or nada," which means commune or nothing. The communes represent the people's ability to self-determine, to have direct control over their own resources, and to build and decide on how resources are used within the commune. The commune that we visited had a textile factory that was owned by the workers who worked there, and they used the surplus value generated from that textile factory to fund projects within the commune and to fund other factories and to fund other factories within the commune as well. And in addition, I had the honor of speaking to, as a student activist, I had the honor of speaking to Venezuelan student activists who spoke to me about the drastic contradictory differences between U.S. education and Venezuelan education. First off, Venezuelan public universities are free for all students who apply. I go to the New York University, which has a $90,000 tuition if you want to attend, which is, unaffordable to most Americans. Yep. And not only that, there were differences in how the very universities are governed. Here in the United States, many of our universities are governed by a board of trustees who are unelected, who do not have to listen to the students and their desires. We see this play out time and time again, where students demand, that we divest from military companies who are funding and supplying weapons to Israel's genocide in Gaza, to Israel's occupation of Palestinian land. We see this time and time again, where students are demanding increased Black enrollment, more action to be done against ICE coming onto campuses. But in Venezuela, the students have a direct say in how their education is run. I remember how they talked about how their governing body of the university is elected by the students, by students who graduated, faculty members, and others. So they have much more of a say in how their education is run. And I think a really, in my opinion, crazy example was how students have to sign a contract with the faculty to agree to the syllabus and how classes are run. And if they don't agree, they get to protest and demand changes to the syllabus. We have no say in how our education is run here, which I thought was mind-blowing, honestly. And before the trip, I knew that our university education was undemocratic, but I had no knowledge of examples of a more democratic form of education until I spoke with the Venezuelan student activists there. And another thing I want to speak to that also represents that central contradiction is the vast differences between Maduro and Trump. I had the honor of seeing Maduro and the disprivilege of seeing Trump. Uh, and I'll talk about Trump. He came near NYU's campus to film some advertisement for a crypto bar that is near the campus, right? Boo, yeah. And they had NYPD set up. They had the National Guard. They had Department of Homeland Security. All the federal agencies set up, preventing people from coming towards Trump to talk to him. Had sniper rifles pointed at the crowd, and also sniper rifles set up throughout the area to watch the crowd, to control the crowd essentially. And the people who were there, they were protesting Trump or were just curious about Trump being there. And when he came out of his motorcade, you couldn't see him at all, really. But it was completely different in compared to Maduro, who was walking amongst the people, who people were able to come up to and talk to him. And there's so many examples of him being such a people's leader, where he did not hesitate to talk to people. For example, he talked to one of the U.S. delegates who was there, I think John Parker, and I thought it was a very hilarious interaction where he handed him the mic. John Parker says that the U.S. people stand with the people of Venezuela against U.S. imperialism, and he starts singing his little song of la 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 la, yes, peace, no war. And I thought it was I love how down to earth he is as a person, and it's anecdotal, but it just represents how vastly different Trump and Maduro are. That Maduro is a people's president, that he represents the interests of the people of Venezuela. Trump, he does not represent our interests. He is not our leader. He's a representative of the U.S. ruling class. And I just want to end off my speech by talking about our goal as organizers here, as my rate said, is to build a big, broad, united front, a big, broad movement to oppose the U.S. Trump's crazy war with Venezuela, to dismantle all of the U.S.'s lies about Venezuela, from the drug cartels to Machado to Maduro being a dictatorship. We know that this isn't a war for democracy, to free the Venezuelan people. This is a war to take control of Venezuela, to exploit Venezuelan oil, rare minerals, and other resources for the profit of U.S. imperialists. And we have to center the fact that our struggles here in the United States and the struggle of the Venezuelan people are against the same common enemy, against U.S. imperialism. And I just want to end off by saying, if there's any regime that needs to be overthrown, it's Trump and the monopolist capitalist class who he represents. Am I allowed to do a little chant, or am I allowed to do a little chant? Okay. Viva Venezuela! Viva! Viva Chavez! Viva! Viva Bolivar! Viva! Viva Maduro! Viva! Thank you.